phone. I've never done that before. I don't know
Thank-
if you can recognize my number.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, you're good.
Okay. Are we ready? So I call the special meeting of the Board of Finance of the MDC, Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Call the meeting to order at 10 minutes after 4. Are there any public comments relative to the agenda items? Any public comments relative to the agenda items on the meeting tonight? Hearing none, we move to item number 3. Independent consumer advocate comments and questions relative to agenda items. You're on the line, Elizabeth, is that correct?
Yeah, I am. And no questions for me at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we can't do the approval of the meeting minutes. That's item number 4. Item number 5.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I did just see somebody else just signed in. This is John Myrtle. I see Commissioners Curry, Citizen Member Vargas are on the WebEx. Is there another commissioner or citizen member that's a member of Board of Finance that just called in on a phone number? No. Okay, we're still one short.
Yeah, we're still short. So this discussion doesn't anticipate necessarily a vote, but I do want to report to the committee that the discussion was established to, it's about the South Hartford Storage and Conveyance Tunnel change order. So some of you may be aware that the district board received a presentation from the district council regarding this shortly before the last district board meeting, a written presentation. And there were some questions that wasn't received early enough for the questions to get generated, especially not in writing, regarding the tunnel and the presentation. So in the discussion about this, the questions that were raised to me and from me as well had to do with the presentation of the finances that with respect to the $51 million change order for the South Storage and Conveyance Tunnel. I will say that none of the questions that I've received, and certainly commissioners will have a right to ask any question they like about it, but I haven't received any questions about the change order itself and the circumstances that surrounded it. Only about the financing, and only in response to what we received, which identified some of the costs as direct and some of the costs as indirect, and that generated a number of questions. So we have, who's that? I can't.
It was just feedback.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess it's feedback. So what we've more or less agreed to do is Chris Stone has agreed to make this presentation directly to the Board of Finance and responding to the questions that we had. And we will get a breakdown from the staff explaining the difference between direct and indirect and the funding for the $51 million change order that was written. Scott, as just one question for you. Earlier tonight, you said that we have not received the funding yet, or we've not been. It's not approved yet, or is it?
Yeah, no. The change order is approved. I am actually in the process. I'll be sending a letter out tomorrow to DEEP. As you know, January of 2023, we amended our consent order for the IP, the integrated plan, and that was the issue about the North Hartford, and we went from $47 million to $170 million worth of work. And the goal, the mandate goal by the legislature and DEEP was that we start construction in July of 23. We did that. We actually achieved that. We had to do lots of work, and we had to use lots of ingenuity with DEEP, modifying the consent order processes to get there. Unfortunately, we've been funding, self-funding these projects, $30 million so far on the IP ourselves. And as you know, we use cash flow. So we pay bills with our own one checking account, and then we reimburse ourselves through ledgers. So we have been waiting and waiting and waiting. The procedures and policies with DEEP has been difficult and challenging. And the $51 million is also came out of our Clean Water Fund. So we need to reimburse ourselves as quickly as possible. So I'm sending a letter to DEEP basically telling them that, and we understand their budget is July 1, they're waiting for appropriations, but I am notifying them that we are going to be putting some projects on hold that are on the IP and CIP projects, because again, it's cash flow. It's not about whether or not you have appropriation, you have authorization from the board or from DEEP to spend. It still takes cash flow. You still need cash in the bank to pay the bills. So we are putting them on notice that we are going to be slowing some of these projects down so we don't run into a cash flow problem. What we don't want to do is to have to bond sooner than we anticipate. We anticipate bonding in the latter part of the summer, and we don't want to have to bond sooner with bands or what have you because of cash flow. So I will be sending that letter out. I'll obviously send it to all the commissioners. But in terms of the $51 million has been approved. We're going through the process of actually getting reimbursed. The state has said they approved the fund for the change order, but they're just waiting for their new appropriation and new funding from, I'm not sure whether it's the bond commissioner or whether it's from their authorization through OPM, but we are waiting for reimbursement for that.
That's really, I asked you that but that's the good news. It's approved. It's just a matter of time until we get the money, and that's basically a success for the project that we got it through DEEP, which I'm sure was an arduous task. Commissioner DeBella?
Scott, that's a revolving fund, is it not? We got federal money and it's revolving, it revolves. So that's not funding that comes to them right now from the federal government. It's money that exists in a revolving.
Correct, yes.
And so that should be protected. Why wouldn't they be paying us?
Well, they have, they have a budget like we do, so they have authorization to spend by OPM, by the legislature, and I don't pretend to understand why, but they're telling us that they need to wait for their budget to be approved in July for us to finalize our loan agreement.
But wouldn't that be coming out of a capital fund?
I don't understand, Bill, why we have to wait. They have told us we have to wait until they get their budget approved in July.
Okay. All right, so we'll hear at our next Board of Finance meeting scheduled in July as a Board of Finance. This is a special meeting, but so item number 6 is the report from Clifton Larson Allen LLP on the 2024 audit. See, we have the presentation here this evening, and if you could please introduce yourselves as you start, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure, my name is Vanessa Rosito. I'm an engagement principal at Clifton Larson Allen. I'll just kind of back up. I took over the engagement about 3 weeks ago when your current principal, Jessica Anscoff, left the firm. And I am retiring at the end of this year. So to my right is David Flint, who is also a principal at CLA, who will be taking over the MDC engagement should we be fortunate enough to continue our relationship. And Brandon Cathcart was the director on the audit this year.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So we've prepared a PowerPoint presentation that's up on the screen. And hopefully this little clicker works. It does. Okay. So I'm just going to go through this high-level presentation that summarizes the audit and the federal single audit. Brandon is going to go into a little bit more detail on the federal single audit. We also have the printed documents. I should also note that everything is draft. We do not anticipate anything changing, so we are ready to issue this audit and federal single audit tomorrow. Okay, so if there's any questions, maybe just hold them to the end, and then we'll go from there. So this is our disclaimer, which of course we will not read to you. As far as the agenda, I'm going to go through the terms of the engagement, go through an executive summary of the results. I'll go through some high-level financial highlights. As I said, Brandon will go through the federal single audit. And then I'll wrap it up and just summarize our governance communication and talk about some upcoming GASB pronouncements that will affect the financial statements in the future. So as far as the terms of the engagement, CLA was engaged to express opinions on whether the basic financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We express an in relation to opinion on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which is your federal single audit. We express an opinion on compliance related to the major federal award programs that we tested. We provide a report on your financial internal controls over financial reporting and compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. And lastly, we provide a report on internal control over compliance related to the federal programs that we tested. As far as the results of the audit, we have issued or will issue a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. This is the highest form of an opinion that you can receive. It means that everything is fairly stated in accordance with our accounting principles. We did not have any findings on internal control and compliance also, so completely clean audit. And then similarly with the federal single audit, we've issued an unmodified or a clean opinion on the two major federal programs that were tested. And again, no compliance findings or significant deficiency on those programs. Okay, as far as the financial highlights, I have excerpted this table, which is in the management's discussion and analysis portion of the financial statement. So it's a very high-level aggregation of all of the funds of the district. So I'll just go through them. The governmental activities is basically your sewer activities, and the business type activities is your water activities. We just compare 2023 to 2024, governmental activities net position increase from 1.011 billion to 1.103 billion. And business type activities net position increased from 269 million to 314 million. As you know, the major reason for this increase is the capital activity that has been going on at the district. The next slide will show you the various funds of the district. The major funds, general fund, the debt service fund, the clean water project fund, and then the capital project fund. Just looking towards the bottom portion of the slide and the results from 2023 to 2024, the general fund's fund balance increased 726,000. Debt service fund balance increased 701,000. The clean water projects fund balance decreased $50 million, and this is due to the significant capital activity and expenditures that have happened in that fund. And although there was issuances of debt, clean water loans, and issuances of bonds, it's just a timing issue, as there will be debt in the future issued to cover these costs. In governmental accounting, when we have capital expenditures, they are expenses. So that's what's happening in this fund. And then in the capital project fund, fund balance decreased about $6 million from last year to this year. Turning to the next page, looking at the trust funds of the MDC, the pension trust fund and the OPEB trust fund. Oops, sorry. So this is where you set aside assets to fund your pension and your OPEB liabilities. Just looking at the pension trust fund, you had contributions both from the employer and the employees of about $12 million. Net investment earnings were about $32 million. And then the benefits and administrative expenses or deductions were $22 million. So you did have a positive return to the net position of $21 million to end the year with about $267.6 million. The OPEB trust fund had contributions from just purely employer contributions of $8.5 million. Investment earnings of $2 million, and then the deductions were about $9 million. So increase also to net position from 11.8 to 13.6. And then talking about the net pension liability, so this is combining the total pension liability with those assets that I just spoke about. So there's a net pension liability of $75.7 million. The plan is 77.96% funded. And then the OPEB plan's liability is $127.7 million. This plan is 9.62% funded. And I will hand it over to Brandon for the federal single audit.
Good afternoon, board members, and again, thank you for having me here today. So for anyone who has the federal single audit, you can see on page 8 where I'm about to discuss some of the items. As Vanessa mentioned, you received an unmodified opinion, which is the cleanest opinion that can be given. Of the two programs reported, which was Clean and Drinking Water Revolving Fund, both were tested as a major program with no control or compliance findings. Between both programs, 2024 expenditures reported a total of $94.98 million, which is an increase of approximately $51.36 million from 2023. Of that 94.98, Clean Water Revolving Fund had $76.5 million, and Drinking Water 18.5 roughly. The increase in these is driven by multiple new issuances or otherwise awards across both the drinking and clean water funds. Note 3 on page 5 will show you a further breakdown of the loan balances year over year. So essentially a roll forward. And for those expenditures, you can also see that on page 4 of your federal single audit. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the auditor's communication. So this was a separate document in your packet. This is a required communication from our firm to those charged with governance, which is this committee. We're required to communicate certain things to you. So during the year, the district adopted GASB 101, which was entitled Compensated Absences. This is a more conservative way to account for compensated absences, not just those that are going to be paid at the end of the year, but also the time that's going to be taken during the next year. So the MDC did adopt that standard. There's various estimates in your financial statement, so we're required to look at them a little bit more closely because they could be subject to management bias. Management could use them to, misstate the earnings, whether higher or lower. So we did look at the following estimates and found that they were fairly stated. These include net pension and OPEB liability, which you do utilize an actuary to calculate for you, but they are based upon management's decisions about discount rate and mortality rate and so on. Alternative investments, these are some of your investments in your pension and OPEB plans are alternative, so the valuation is subject to management estimate. And then in claims incurred but not reported, you do also utilize a third party to estimate those for you. Next slide. We did not have any disagreements with management. Management did not consult with another accounting firm if we had a difference of opinion, which there were none. We did not have any difficulties during this year's audit. We did have I guess I'll just say journal entries that were not recorded because they were not material. to be recorded. So, and I know you've had these the past couple of years. There's 2 GASB statements for leases and software subscription agreements that just the cost benefit is not there to go through the exercise of analyzing these and recording them because they're not material to your financial statements. Even though that is the case, you still have to analyze these going forward every year. And we did not have any independence issues, so we are independent of MDC. And lastly, to look forward to new GASB standards, this calendar year, there's Statement 102, which is certain risk disclosures. This has to do with any concentrations that the district may have, if there's one vendor that you use or one revenue source, so on and so forth. That's required to be disclosed if there is an event that could cause a negative impact on your financial statements. And then in calendar 26, there's 2 statements to analyze. Statement 103, which is financial reporting model improvements. This is a standard that the GASB has been warning us for years and years that the whole financial statement look is going to change, but they really rolled back a lot of these things. So there'll just be a couple small changes that you'll notice in the management's discussion analysis and the budgetary presentation, I think some things in the statistical tables. And then lastly, Statement 104, which is disclosure of certain capital assets. This is just some more guidance on the disclosure of capital assets if you do have leases or SBITAs, and also if you have land held for resale. There's a little bit more guidance on that. And that is everything, so I'll turn it over to you for any questions you have. And like I said, we have all the documents with us, so if you have any questions, we can turn to a specific page and answer them.
Certainly, and thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. And all of our commissioners have had the audit for some time now to, if they have an opportunity to develop questions. We do have a lot of people missing. We don't have a quorum. I would suggest that anybody who has a question, we'll let you ask it now. But if there's any other questions that they could be sent in, and send them to you. I'm sure you can probably help us get that accomplished from somebody that might not be here today or wasn't available for today.
Sure. I would just ask that it happen quickly because the statutory deadline is June 30th, so we're trying to meet that deadline to issue the audit.
That's, and I think if we can get this meeting video up really fast, and anybody that missed it could get a look at it and then send us whatever questions they have. So,
That's great.
are there any questions from any of the members? First, members of the Board of Finance? Commissioner Adams.
Yes, I would say the one question I had was really more process-oriented.
Yeah, okay.
It's more process-oriented, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I've been through these on several occasions, and this year seemed, a little bit more difficult than most. We had gone out to RFP, but I don't think we really got notification of the RFP, or did we? I would want to know that.
Yeah, I would say that's,
What happened?
we've sort of tried to discuss this earlier. It's not necessarily a question for the auditors. So it is a question that we hope to get answered, and we can, but I want to make sure that we get everybody an opportunity to ask a question of the auditors while they're here. So I appreciate your question, and we will deal with it. Is there anyone else? I understand Commissioner Vargas has a question. He's a member, and then we'll get to you. Okay, go ahead, Edwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just pardon my ignorance, but I would like to know what the OPEB is.
Oh, I apologize. OPEB is other post-employment benefits. So these are retirement benefits that you're paying to MDC's retirees. The amount also represents an actuarial estimate of the liability of also the current employees too.
And is 9% kind of low, or? Because I noticed that the pension plan was over 70% funded, but the OPEB plans seem to be very, very underfunded.
So I would say that's a better question for your actuary. They are, they see a lot of plans, but I can say that most of my clients' pension plans are more well-funded than their OPEB plans.
I would only say, Commissioner Vargas, I would only say that the OPEB fund is, please correct me if I'm wrong, because to the auditors, but it's sort of a pay-as-you-go thing. Each year, the costs that are generated by the OPEB funds are paid directly out of the fund. So the reserve is just each year we may add or build a little more reserve to it. But there are years when the expenditures go up and there are years when the expenditures go down. And, so trying to get a sort of a standard amount to in reserve over time is a little more difficult than it is with the pension fund itself. But I don't believe anyone's ever told us that 9% is lower than we had before. But I don't believe anyone's ever told us that that's a threat or dangerous or not capable of getting to the next year with it. So I think that's what the question was about. Is about the 9%. You've audited, and I think your answer is the right one. I think we need to ask our actuaries whether they feel in this financial environment that that's a good number. So.
If I may,
Thank you.
if I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Sure, go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
just to clarify, the MDC did not have an OPEB trust fund until 2018, I think was the date, 2018 or 19. So, Commissioner, we have always paid GOAD OPEB liability cash in our operational budget. And in 2018 or 19, whichever the date was, the board voted to actually initiate and develop a OPEB trust fund similar to the pension. But as you can imagine, we've only been contributing, less than $1 million a year or something of that nature. So that's why that fund is only at 9%. But the goal with the actuary is to build that up. I think it's a 30-year plan. But we can give a presentation to that. But we just initiated this fund, and that's why there's only 9%. So the majority of the cash to pay for the OPEB retirees comes from the operational budget.
Well, thank you for the explanation.
Commissioner Taylor, you had a question.
Yeah, I guess it's a question that I think it may seem to be a contingency, but I think it's important. We have over $1 billion worth of assets located down in the South Meadows. And one of the things that at least I'm becoming more and more concerned about in light of the weather changes that are coming in terms of climate change is basically, has anyone taken a careful look at our exposure, particularly with regard to the dikes down there? Because if they go down and we're in a position where we really can't insure those assets, as I understand it at this time, do we need to take notice of that? Are there any corrective actions that should be taken? Is this something that should be raised within the context of our financials? And I'm addressing this through you, Mr. Chairman, to the auditors.
I understand. I just want to make sure that if there's anything in there that's a question for the auditors, then I want to make sure that you get to ask that now. The rest of the question, I understand what you're saying, but is there something particular that you want to ask?
Well, I mean, does that rise at all to the level of concern where it should be looked at or discussed within the audit in terms of our exposure or not? That's my question. Because this is a substantial portion of our assets. And if the dikes go, we're going to have a problem. I mean, a very serious problem. And that's the.
Well, I think we can try to characterize that question for our next meeting. I don't know that the auditors can answer. But I'll just ask them: is there anything the auditors even look at the sort of indemnifying, the assets that we have one way or another? How much of our general obligation bonds are written against the assets that we have, I assume, but I don't know how much of them are threatened by what you described as behind the dikes and everything. Is that anything that you even look at, or?
That's nothing that we look at in the scope of the audit, no.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I do think that it's a reasonable question. We've talked about it before. A premium to cover all the assets just at Brainerd Field would be ridiculous, kind of, so, Commissioner DeBella.
We've pursued that in the past, Scott. I think you can give us some history on the issue of the two problems we have on the dike. We were after federal money for what, in excess of $130 or $40 million through Washington, and never materialized, but there's definitely a risk down there.
Mr. Chairman, can I raise a question? I mean, we're getting far off what this meeting is all about.
Who's this speaking?
Chairman Curry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
He's just making a point.
Oh, really? I want to pursue that last comment about the land assets, which I think is correct.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
But it was also,
Did Chairman Curry want to speak, or?
No, he was.
No, Mr. Chairman, I thought I made it clear. I said, these questions are far, far away from the purpose for this meeting and dealing with the audit and the findings of the audit. So these are great questions, but for another time and another place.
I think we've responded that it's not part of the audit, but that we will make it a future agenda item. Go ahead, Alan.
but the only comment I want to make is I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Vanessa's opening narrative, there was a reference to land assets. And so what exactly were you referring to, if I misstated by saying that you included those words?
Well, that's the cost of the, that's the cost of the capital outlay.
Well, is it consideration? Is it,
What's your question? That's the historical cost of the additions of the infrastructure and the improvements.
so it's not, go
I
ahead.
think the question is the insurability and the risk that,
Those assets were damaged.
right, or could be damaged, right? That's,
Yeah, and I thought we established that it's not the subject of the audit, but that it's a fair question that we've dealt with on and off before as well. But I don't know, Alan, if that answers your question up, but go ahead, please.
Well, I just want to clarify whether or not the consideration of financial assets to the institution is considered, even though it may not be specified as a question that needs an answer.
so we concentrate on the historical cost of your capital assets less accumulated depreciation. If there is some sort of impairment of that asset because of some event or, act of God, then that's an audit issue because the asset is overstated. I did not think that that was the question. I thought the question was more that the perceived insurance coverage of these assets. Am I?
There is no.
No, that's it. Good. No, that's right. I will raise it in another setting. Okay. I don't want to get into any flap about this, right?
Yeah, I think that you stated that, Buddy, that we'll deal with that at another point in time.
Okay. Are there any other questions from any other commissioners? Yep. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, if anybody else wanted to jump in. I have a couple. One of the things, and I'm sure that you folks run into situations like this on a regular basis where finance committee, finance board, whatever it happens to be, may not be as well educated in your particular area, so that some of these terms that come up or some of these concepts may not be as obvious as many others. But I was taught by somebody who had a handle on these kinds of conversations between board members, auditors, et cetera, that the best way to approach this is to go directly to the management letter. And that should spell out everything that is absolutely necessary and absolutely true. And so that if, in fact, you find something within the language of the management letter, you're pretty careful that that is, in fact, a true statement. So, given that, I go to the management letter and I print it out, which, by the way, in a very annoying way, lists each page as page 4. So we start with that, and after I go through that 4 or 5 times, you got to figure out where we're going here. Now, I won't argue with that. It could be a simple clerical error, typo, whatever. But I've referenced the very first notation that I did not understand because I didn't have access to the entire audit report under my fingers. And I get to an initial reference to note 1. Can you tell me the basic subject for note 1 and note 7? And it would be a lot easier to read these things if note 1 said X or note 7 said Y. This way I have to go back and find where the hell is note 1. I don't know. I don't even know where to begin to look for note 1.
So I apologize for the page 4,
Oh, that's all right.
but these are drafts. They will be
Understood.
cleaned up when they're issued. This is the governance letter.
Yes.
This is not the management letter. I also want to clarify that. It says as far as note 1, it says as are described in note 1 to the financial statements. So when you go to the financial statements, in the notes to the financial statements, note 1 has all of the accounting policies. That's what this is referring to.
It's policy.
This is saying that it's bringing you to note 1 of your financial statements, which is where all of the accounting policies of the MDC are listed.
Yeah. I don't doubt it. I'm nodding in agreement. Yes, I understand.
Okay.
And 7?
You said you wouldn't know where to find it.
Yeah, well, no. And 7 basically tells me,
And so note 7, it's note, we will add to the financial statements, but it's note 7 of the notes to the financial statements in your financial statement document.
yeah. So whatever this letter is, you're saying it's not a management letter, but a governance letter.
Right.
I'll just repeat the words, not necessarily comprehending it fully. We're about on the very first, I believe it's the first page. On the very first page, maybe 2/3 of the way down the page, you make a statement. It's very hard to also to discuss these when it's not in a bulleted outline form. So we're looking at a paragraph that starts, we noted 2 transactions. Do we see that, where that is?
ending with the phrase, "for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance."
we noted no transactions entered into by the entity.
Can I clarify, if I may, Commissioner? We sent out a draft, John Myrtle sent out a draft on Friday, which was the 13th.
Yep.
And because we promised to get this as quickly as possible to the commissioners. And then we received I think that's the page issue. And then we've received an updated version with all the page changes on Monday, the 15th, I think. And I resent that, Commissioner. So I'm not sure if you're looking at and reviewing the documents that were sent by John Myrtle on Friday the 13th, or was it the documents that I sent on Monday, the 16th?
I believe it was Monday.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
okay,
So I'm not going to argue that point
Okay.
for sure. But I'm just trying to make a statement that says these documents sometimes can be very cumbersome to deal with because everything is not necessarily very clear. And so where then, if this is the so-called governance letter, where then is what is commonly referred to as the management letter, which contains a lot of the similar language that says we looked for X, Y, and Z, and then in the next sentence, we found no occurrence of X, Y,
So a
or Z.
management, so there's three kinds of findings. There's a material weakness,
Yeah,
which means that there is an issue with your financial reporting procedures where your financial statements could have been materially wrong.
yes.
Then there's a significant deficiency. The material weakness is the worst. And then there's a significant deficiency, which is not as bad, but we would say that, there's still a deficiency. It's significant enough to bring it to your attention. And then the last level is a management letter, which could be, just a suggestion for improvement to your internal controls. It could be a best practice. The district did not have any material weaknesses, significant deficiency, nor did we issue a management letter.
So if I can just respond to that statement.
Yep.
And suggest that if all of that which you said is true,
Yep.
we're finding that there were no instances in this review that showed any lack of professionalism, lack of competence, or otherwise, because this is not the first year that I've been on this committee, and it's not the first year that we've had turmoil with this department. And I'm not saying that to make a negative statement, but circumstances tell us that there's a little discombobulation. And that's fine. I'm not even wanting to discuss that. But if we're looking at something and we know what the climate is, or we think we know what the climate is, and then we look and we say, well, there's no material weakness, there's no significant weaknesses, there's no sign of incompetence. Okay, I think that's important for us to know. And I think that's important for us to say in a public setting, which is why I'm saying it now, that we're not looking at a situation that is at all questionable. And so I guess I'm looking for some approbation that says, yes, you're correct. That is a correct statement.
I mean, we do not comment on competence.
I know.
And actually, even though there was turnover in the finance department, the department did a great job to issue this audit on time.
And I'm not surprised. Because if one thing we've always had, and I've always expressed it in this committee, and that is that the staff of the finance department has been A++, top
We
of
agree.
the, top of the line. Now, whether or not a figurehead has somehow upset the apple cart, well, that happens. So we move on. But we're trying to find out, is it running as well as it should be running? And it sounds like, from what you've provided us, yes, it has been. And yes, it is.
Yes.
And so all of that is good. And with that, I only have one other question, and that is, have we reached a point, and maybe somebody can answer that from the staff, have we reached a point where we are fully engaged with SAP? Because that's really where I sort of came into the movie, and got my popcorn and, okay, now we're talking about SAP and we can't use it because it's too complicated or whatever the heck the conversation, was. So we're already, 10, 15 years, whatever the heck it's been, down the road.
25.
And are we there yet? Are we fully engaged in SAP?
I can't answer.
If I may.
I know that.
It's not a question.
Yeah, I know.
Let's just. So that's my question.
Can I just?
Yeah, just
I'm
don't
sorry.
make a lot.
If I may, I'd just like to say, I think, I appreciate Commissioner Hoffman's points regarding the management letter. As you know, we've had management letters here before, and we haven't in the last almost 4 years, I think. And everything we promised you, Commissioner, about developing procedures and policies, we have a clean, no finding, no internal control, no management letter. And to the point of, we got Cindy, Green, Jimbo. Could you guys please stand up? Kelly, Shane. Morgan Harris is not probably here. Oh, she's on the phone, Morgan. Hi, Morgan.
Williams may also be on.
And Williams. And I would just say this, is that without a CFO, the typical auditor, this auditor, their client is the comptroller of the MDC. We didn't have a comptroller. We didn't have a chief financial officer. And these individuals, Jimbo, 21 years, Cindy, 6.5 years, and Morgan, 3.5 years, along with Kelly's guidance, was able to without that leadership, was able to deliver this audit, clean audit. And it should be, our staff, should be, they are the best in the industry. I've said this about the engineering departments and construction, but our finance department under Kelly's leadership has developed procedures and policies that we are starting to see. These are the examples of, it's the staff, and you just said it. It's the staff that's actually the hidden gem here of the reason why we are seeing a clean, no finding audit, no management letter. And Kelly and the staff, you've done a tremendous job, so thank you.
Alan, I'm not sure, I just want to make sure that you're satisfied that you got your question out. And
Oh, yes, thank you.
So, are there any other questions directly for the auditors? So we've given people an opportunity to send a question in if they have it. I'd appreciate if you send it to the district clerk. You can copy me, but clerk will get it to the auditors as fast as possible, and you'll see if you can respond to it. So the audit, the final version of the audit, it will be, when are we going to get that?
It's required to be filed by the state of Connecticut on the 30th of June.
So we'll get our copies of the final version corrected, Alan, for what you're saying and so forth. So, and I want to thank Clifton Larson and Alan for their work with it this year. I know it was, as Alan said, perhaps a little more difficult this year than other times. but we certainly appreciate it. And I would say that we're all, I think, satisfied that our staff has done a great job, and we use basically your review and your opinion of that before we make a statement like that. So thank you very much, and I think the audit will be, when it's completed, will satisfy everyone. As I said, I don't want to take away anybody's opportunity to ask a question, so if they do, they got to get it in soon. That's all we want to make sure. So thank you once again. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
We actually have a quorum now, so you can.
What's that?
We have a quorum now. Linda King Corbin joined online.
Yeah,
so if
do
you
we
wanna
need it
do
for
minutes-
anything? Okay, we can go back. I guess we have a quorum, so we can go back to the one item that needs a vote here tonight, which is the approval of meeting minutes of May 19th, 2025.
So moved.
Are there?
So moved.
Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Item number 7 is opportunity for general public comments. Are there any general public comments? Are there any members of the general public online? I don't know if there are or not. Were there? Yeah. Are there any comments? All right. Hearing none. Item number 8 is commission request for consideration of future agenda items. I just want to just sort of recount the fact that we are going to hear from both finance and district counsel's office regarding the tunnel change order and the various payments that were made and definitions of what we were given before, so that everybody has a clear understanding of what the direct and indirect costs mean. And I've been asked a number of questions about that. So hopefully at our next meeting, we'll have that, and we'll have a presentation directly, and we'll have it in writing. The other issue is at the outset of trying to put the agenda together for this meeting, I asked for a copy of the contract with Clifton Larson Allen because I wanted to see the scope of services, keeping in mind what we had talked about last year with both Kona Resnick and Clifton Larson Allen with respect to what items they get to oversee. And I was particularly interested in looking for any issues that have to do with the big change order and the project itself. So I did get that contract back, and together with that contract, though, we also got a statement regarding the I guess you'd call it the execution of that contract or the award of that contract. And I did ask that the district board, through the chairman, make some request regarding documentation on what we were told with respect to the selection and the ultimate award of the contract to Clifton Larson Allen. So although that's not a future agenda item for us, because I trust that the district board will take it up and that those people that have asked me questions regarding that will be provided with the documentation and some answers on that through the district board. Other than that, are there any requests from commissioners or board members for future agenda items? Okay, well, hearing none, then the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion adjourned.
Without objection, meeting's adjourned.